5 years ago in Mosul, Afghanistan, a man rushes along a dirt road, drawing the Taliban's attention, as a drone soars over the area. While the others bury-eyed, the guy informs an elderly member that the Americans are approaching. The village suddenly goes empty as soon as the American forces arrive and start to survey the region. Pretty Boy, the squad commander, rushes forward, unaware that the enemy is lurking within the houses, and discovers a suspicious man making a bomb. They instantly surround him. Jake firmly commands the man to put down the weapon since he feels they are taking too long. If he doesn't cooperate, they'll shoot him. He grows furious and grabs a gun, forcing the soldiers to kill him. Colonel Tom Mason, their commanding officer, inquires about the circumstance over the radio a little while afterwards. Jake tells him that an eye had been planted there as a trap for them, and there is a dead informant nearby. Then he requests authorization to disarm it, but Mason objects. Nevertheless, he decides to go through with it and deactivates the explosives. The second bomb detonates shortly after, killing everyone but Jake. They are ambushed by the Taliban, who open fire in all directions. Mason stands in for Jake as he stands up and flees the scene. He then responds by fighting back and aids Mason. The assured soldier of today is now a concerned civilian. Jake is reintegrating into American society, but he still battles with his wartime memories. He is taking medication to treat his PTSD. By working at Earl's car shop in Riverside, California, he also makes an effort to lead a regular life. Later on the same day, Jake visits his family at his house. His wife Ashton shows him a stack of money on the counter, which causes their upbeat atmosphere to instantly alter. He reassures her that they would survive just as they usually do when she frets about how they will get by. He then alters the atmosphere by jokingly stealing a piece of chicken and fleeing. Jake runs into some Mexican thugs at work the next day because Earl owes them money. It quickly turns physical as Fresh, the gang's leader, commands his members to beat the man up. Jake strikes them with speed and precision, but before he can get to Fresh, he pulls a gun and threatens him. Jake confronts Earl about the risk he put himself in after the event. Earl reveals that he was once one of them but was lucky enough to escape and now lives in a place he can call his own. Jake is concerned about the safety of his family, but Earl reassures him that he will do all in his power to keep his community secure. But later that evening, catastrophe strikes Jake when Fresh appears and tells him it's time for retaliation. He runs into the house in a panic and discovers his family dead. He wails in agony and laments his unexpected loss. The cops attempt to talk with Jake as they arrive on the scene a short while later. However, he becomes disoriented as he dashes to his car and desperately looks for Fresh. Shortly later, he spots Fresh's car parked outside a club, and he immediately decides to go after him to get revenge on his family. Without feeling guilty, he shoots the group, and as he is ready to execute Fresh, Fresh says that he has no option but to do it. However, Jake's determination is unshaken, and he kills Fresh right once. Jake is currently incarcerated for his crime 5 months after committing it. The loss of his family has had a profound impact on him, and his history continues to follow him about. When Mason goes to see him, he offers to assist with his case, but the man believes that given what he's done, he belongs in jail. When Jake reveals that he murdered them without feeling guilty and that he would still do it if he had to, Mason's attempts at consoling him are fruitless. Mason is then told by him to never return as he closes their chat. Then Ramsey, the head of a private task group, pays him an unexpected visit. Jake rejects him without giving him a chance to defend himself. That evening, masked guys break into his cell and take him hostage. A short while later, Ramsey admits that he and his crew were in charge of kidnapping the man. He tells him he has been keeping an eye on him for a while and is impressed with his track record. He then challenges him to choose between rotting in jail and starting over by joining his unit. After giving it some thought, Jake chooses to work for Section 8, a covert government organization, in order to live as a hero once more. Ramsey gives him an overview of the roles played by Elias, Ajax, Bruner, and Mueller in Washington, D.C. before being taken into a different room. Jake stealthily steals a pen from a neighboring desk. Ramsey continues by saying that his true identity has been deemed dead and that a new pseudonym and backstory will be assigned to him. The team takes him through the initiation procedure once Ramsey departs. Ajax starts to incite a fight with him in an effort to irritate him. Jake first shows hesitation, but finally pushes back and nearly stabs himself in the eye with the pen. His thoughts immediately rushes back to his family, giving him time to collect himself. Jake soon embarks on his first Mueller expedition. She gives him background information on his first victim, Alejandro Castillo, a defense contractor who also deals in illegal weapons. She instructs him that his task is to find a schematic file and kill Alejandro before he can sell the files to the Russians. When they arrive in Mexico, Castillo is waiting for Johnny, a Russian negotiator, to complete the transaction at a warehouse. Jake infiltrates the area covertly and kills a guard as they are conversing. Their focus is drawn to the cacophony, which makes them turn against one another. Jake takes advantage of the shooting that results from their miscommunication by covertly eliminating any survivors. Then, sparing two innocent ladies, he knocks down a wounded Castillo, steals the files, and flees. Ramsey chastises him for jeopardizing the integrity of their mission by abandoning survivors when they get back to their base. Then, if the man doesn't obey, he threatens to send him back to jail. Mueller then dismisses Jake after giving a performance review. Ramsey is not happy with her praise for him. The following day, Locke quickly breaks into a hotel with the intention of killing a victim who is familiar with Ramsey. The man offers to buy him off, but it doesn't work. He nevertheless perishes as a result. The security personnel suspect him as he leaves and pursue him. He effortlessly defeats the law enforcement and escapes in a vehicle that was stolen. Jake relocates to a new home in the meanwhile. When he comes across a photo from his time in Afghanistan, it makes him think of his talk with Mason. Jake accuses himself of causing his injury, but Mason offers some sage advice to help him deal with his guilt. Later, Mueller meets Jake in a pub, where they establish a friendship over drinks. She replies that she knows nothing about Ramsey when he asks her about him. He requests her narrative as a result. Instead, she explains to him that she was a former Army member who was disciplined for hitting her commanding officer. Soon later, Ramsey gives them a briefing on their new assignment. Jim Graham, a state lawmaker, is the intended victim. The goals are to steal digital data from a delicate case and to kill the victim. While Jake is out bird watching, he sends Mueller to collect the data. He makes it quite clear that there will be strong security. They eventually make their way to California and pose as landscapers. Mueller kills the guards inside the chamber, but he inadvertently alerts the security, jeopardizing the mission. With their cover revealed, Jake goes in pursuit of Graham while Mueller handles the paperwork. Graham ultimately runs up to Jake, but he hesitates when he hears that Jake has a family. Unfortunately, Ajax finds them and kills Graham right away. Jake is moved by Graham's remarks that evening and can't help but think about his wife. But Section 8 is now after him because of his hesitancy. He is being pursued by masked guys who break into his home, but he manages to flee. He then visits Mason, with whom he discusses Section 8. Mason makes it clear that he is in big danger if he is their runaway. Jake thus requests assistance to lend him cash and a rifle so that he may flee. Upon his return to Riverside, Jake learns through his son's closest friend that Fresh was spotted with persons wearing suits before the death of his family. But Locke steps in to murder him before he can learn any more. Locke shoots everyone who stands in his way, including law enforcement, and Jake barely escapes. Then, Locke phones Ramsey to inform him that he has lost Jake. Ramsey, though, irritates him, making it harder for him to track down Jake. The Section 8 unit locates Jake in Earl's store that same day. Elias and Bruner are defeated by Jake after a violent struggle for his life. Ajax is a formidable foe, though, as he nearly gains the upper hand. Jake nearly suffers a stabbing. Fortunately, Mueller shows up there and kills Ajax with a shot. Following the altercation, Earl gives Jake the keys to a car and instructs him to drive away before the cops show up. Mueller and Jake quarrel over their lack of trust for one another in the automobile. Then, in an effort to put an end to it, he inquires as to Ramsey's location. They travel to Montana so Ramsey can meet with some members of Congress. Jake is knocked out during the pair's attempt to break into the cabin. He eventually awakens strapped to a chair with Mueller next to him and Ramsey in front of him. Ramsey confesses that everything was a trap and that they had something special in store for him. Tom walks inside the room as the door opens. When he suddenly appears, Jake is surprised, but his concerns are quickly clarified when they admit that they killed his family. His family is viewed by them as a waste of his abilities. Tom excuses himself and hands Ramsey the cash while Mueller checks the cash. Jake is subsequently released as he creeps back into the room. He informs him honestly, stating that he was hired to remove Section 8. Ramsey's troops are then informed by the alarm sound. Despite being outnumbered, the formidable pair overthrows them without delay. Jake made it apparent to them that he intended to see Ramsey die once they had Ramsey in a tight spot. Then Ramsey attempts to trick him by making him hate Tom, but he doesn't fall for it. Tom takes a bullet for Jake and passes away as Mueller creeps up to kill him. Ramsey decides to take the opportunity and runs away as Mueller kills Jake. She initially appears to have the advantage, but after a brief battle, Jake effortlessly tips the balance in his favor and instantaneously kills her. He then pursues Ramsey, who ultimately collides with an approaching vehicle. Jake approaches the accident and is rebuked for his hesitation by a hurt Ramsey. Jake shoots him before he can complete his sentence. After meeting Jake, Attorney General Savoy offers him a position and a fresh start. Jake refuses the offer, claiming that he has nothing left to fight for, and he is also informed that Tom worked for them. Though he is aware, Savoy still extends his card to him. After that, Jake returns to his home, where Locke is waiting for him. Even without Ramsey, he wants to complete the task. They thus engage in a fierce struggle. Even though Locke had the upper hand at first, Jake finally grabs the pistol and shoots Locke. As the film comes to a close, Jake leaves Earl a voicemail in which he expresses his gratitude for saving him, just like his father had done for him. The message concludes with an emotional Earl and Jake calling Savoy while on a bus, who welcomes him to Section 9.